I couldn't shift to ease the pressure. My breath caught somewhere between anticipation and hesitation. His hand rested low against the curve of my back, guiding without urgency, steady, yet unrelenting. A sound rose in my throat that wasn't quite pain, but it burned in a way I hadn't felt in years. I let it out as a whisper, leaning back slightly, realizing in that instant just how long I had gone untouched. And now, I was letting this happen. Dear listeners, are you ready to step into a story about a love that defies the lines we draw for ourselves? Then let me begin. Liana's night had started simply, quiet, comforting, wrapped in familiar rhythms. Rain fell softly against her apartment windows, a lullaby she always found soothing. She had just folded a blanket neatly across the couch, the faint scent of lavender and cedar wood curling from a flickering candle nearby. It was her kind of evening. Safe, warm, a mug of tea in hand, an old film queued up, and nobody asking anything of her. Then her phone buzzed. It was Amira, a friend from college, now a nurse covering extra shifts. Their exchanges were rare, mostly short texts. The message read, "Hey, I'm stuck at the hospital again. Rayan is in town visiting someone, but plans fell through. Could he stay at your place tonight? He has nowhere else to go." Liana hesitated just a moment, memories of the last time she had seen him surfacing. He had been quiet, awkward, polite, the kind of boy who spoke only when spoken to. Without overthinking, she typed back, "Of course. Send him over." 30 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Liana opened the door, her warm smile frozen halfway. The boy she remembered was gone. Standing there was Rayan, taller, shoulders broad beneath a gray hoodie, hands tucked casually into his pockets. His face had sharpened, his eyes calm in a way that made her pulse skip. "Hi, Aunt Liana," he said, voice deeper than she remembered, unfamiliar in a way that made her heart quicken. "Rayan, wow, I wouldn't have recognized you." She stepped aside quickly. "Come in. You must be exhausted." He nodded, glancing quietly around the small apartment. "Feels peaceful in here, like the walls are breathing out." She laughed softly, easing the tension. "That's a poetic way of saying it's cramped and full of candles." His grin was faint but genuine as he sank into the couch. She offered tea, which he accepted, and soon they were side by side watching an old black and white film. At first, Liana felt unsettled. He was younger, significantly so. He was Amira's son. She reminded herself of this, but something about the way he sat, still, attentive, phone untouched, unsettled her in a way that wasn't quite discomfort. It was something else, something she couldn't yet name. "I like this," Rayan murmured, gaze fixed on the screen. "Feels honest." "That's why I love it. It doesn't rush," Liana said softly. "It just lets things be." He turned slightly toward her. "Like you do," she blinked. "What do you mean?" "You don't force things. You let them unfold." "That's rare." Their hands brushed as they reached for popcorn simultaneously. The contact was brief, accidental, but neither pulled away as quickly as they should have. Awareness lingered, a quiet heat in the air. Liana told herself it was nothing, just nostalgia, the warmth of tea, the calm of the evening. Yet subtly, everything had shifted. When the movie ended, silence filled the room. Not awkward, but heavy with something unsaid. Liana's eyes stayed on the scrolling credits, acutely aware of her racing heartbeat. "I should go," Rayan finally said, glancing at the clock. "It's late," she replied gently. "You're welcome to stay." "Guest room's ready." He hesitated. "Thanks. But would it be all right if we talked a little first? I've missed quiet like this." She nodded, leading him to the kitchen where a small lamp cast everything in golden glow. They cradled mugs of tea, seated across from one another, and spoke in pauses filled with trust and shared silence. "I didn't expect to feel this comfortable," he admitted softly. "Why not? Thought you'd still see me as Amira's friend, or the awkward girl you barely noticed." She chuckled. "Well, I did change your diapers once upon a time." He groaned, laughing. "Please don't remind me." The laughter faded, replaced by something heavier in his eyes. "You okay?" she asked gently. "I don't know," he said after a pause. "I feel like I'm drifting. Finished school, worked a little, but nothing feels like it fits. Like I'm always doing what's expected, never what's mine." Liana stayed quiet, listening, her heart tuned to his vulnerability. "Most people don't have it figured out," she said softly. "Even when they pretend to. Do you?" She considered. "I thought I did once. Then life changed. Now I'm still learning who I am." Their eyes met, lingering too long. "I can breathe here," he whispered, almost reverently. "Like I don't have to fake anything." She swallowed, feeling it too. Hours passed, yet when he finally lingered by the doorway to leave, she realized something vital had begun, even if unspoken. "Good night, Ryan," she whispered. As the door closed behind him, the apartment felt achingly empty. Something had started between them, and neither could ignore it. But the real test of this quiet connection was yet to come. Morning arrived slowly, sunlight spilling across Liana's bedroom floor. She rose, robe drawn tight, thoughts unsettled. Nothing had happened. No kiss, no promise, no lines crossed. Yet her mind and body both remembered the brush of Rayon's hand, the echo of his voice in her chest. She moved to the kitchen, still unsettled, brewing coffee and setting out breakfast. The quiet of the apartment felt almost sacred, charged with yesterday's unspoken truths. Footsteps sounded behind her. She turned to see Rayan entering, hair tousled, voice rough with sleep. "Morning," he said softly. "Morning. Sleep well?" she asked, though the question was half-hearted. "Better than I have in weeks," he replied, settling at the table. She placed a plate before him. They ate mostly in silence, yet the quiet hummed with meaning, a wordless dialogue threading between them. "Thanks for this," he said, voice low, almost intimate. "You didn't have to." "You're not difficult to care for," she replied, trying to keep her tone light. He smiled, a faint curve that made her chest tighten. "That's the kindest thing anyone said to me in a long time." Later, while drying dishes beside her, he hesitated before speaking. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you ever feel like life passed you by while you were busy doing what everyone else expected?" His voice was quiet, careful, almost searching. Her hand stilled. The question hit closer than she expected. "Yes," she admitted. "I was so focused on being right, I forgot to ask myself what I actually wanted." "Do you know now?" She hesitated, then whispered, "I don't want to be lonely anymore." He studied her, eyes deep with understanding. "You don't seem lonely," he said gently. "You've just learned to hide it." The moment stretched, heavy with emotion, and for a heartbeat, the apartment felt like their own private world. Then, the buzz of his phone reminded them that reality waited beyond the golden light of the morning. "Mom's outside," he said after checking the screen, sighing. 10 minutes. "You'd better pack," she murmured, voice soft, almost reluctant. He dried his hands, turned toward her. "I like being here, with you." Her chest tightened. "I'm glad," she whispered, though her heart spoke louder than words. At the door, he lingered, hesitant. "Can I visit again? Just to talk?" She looked at him for a long second, her own longing mirrored in his gaze. "Yes, I'd like that." And then he was gone. The silence he left behind was not comforting, it was aching. It carried the weight of all the things they hadn't said, of boundaries tested and hearts quietly stirred. Days passed, but Liana couldn't shake the memory of him, the warmth in his presence, the way his eyes seemed to see her in a way no one else had for years. Every quiet moment, every lingering glance from yesterday replayed itself in her mind. It was more than nostalgia. It was something dangerous, yet irresistible. Rayon's visits became a pattern, small, unassuming, yet each one drew them closer. A shared cup of tea, a glance held a moment too long, laughter that lingered in the chest like a secret melody. The more she tried to rationalize it, the less sense it made. One evening, as rain tapped softly against the window once more, he said quietly, "I feel like I belong here." She didn't reply immediately. She couldn't. She only nodded, the weight of their unspoken connection pressing gently, insistently, against her chest. And then, As if drawn by an invisible gravity, their hands found each other again. Not a touch of accident this time, but a deliberate meeting of warmth, fingers intertwining, heart sinking. Neither pulled away. "You're dangerous," she whispered, half laughing, half serious. "And yet, I can't stop," he replied, voice low, intimate, a promise hiding in the cadence of his words. It was a dance neither wanted to name aloud, a tension building, careful, deliberate. Lines they both knew existed blurred slightly, yet the thrill lay in the uncertainty. Could they navigate it without breaking everything? Or was the act of feeling enough to risk it all? Evening deepened, candlelight casting shadows on the walls, the world outside fading. Their conversation flowed, laughter and quiet confessions mingling with glances that lingered too long. And when Rayan finally left that night, the ache of his absence was sharper, almost tangible. Liana closed the door behind him, letting the silence settle around her. But it was no longer ordinary. The air itself seemed aware of the tension, charged with possibility, with desire, with the sweet ache of a connection that had begun in whispers and quiet moments, and in the quiet that followed. She knew one thing with sudden clarity: nothing would ever feel the same again. If you felt the sparks in this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a tale that touches the heart.